In 2021, crowds of workers began appearing high in the mountains. Dozens of trucks bringing various equipment, rigging, and tools, and thousands of tons of concrete appeared. Yes, the Chinese have begun construction on another mega project, but this time under the most challenging conditions. Earthquakes, harsh weather, and high altitude, which is inherently dangerous, accompanied the project from the very beginning. But this is China, a country that knows how to build the incredible while facing the most unpleasant obstacles. And we know that Chinese projects are always interesting, so we can't help but tell you what the land of mega projects had up its sleeve this time and how it overcame the difficulties. The project began in Guizhou, a province that can be described in one word as mountains, or in two words, as many mountains. Everywhere you look, there are mountains. No, literally. Looking at the province from a satellite, there isn't a single area that could be called flat. The average altitude of Guizhou is 1,100 meters, and mountains and hills cover 92.5% of its total area. This is further enhanced by the fact that many mountains in the region rise more than 2 kilometers into the sky. For example, there's Leigong at 2,178 meters, and Fangying, whose highest point reaches 2,572 meters. The tallest mountain is Jutaping, which reaches 2,900 meters. Are there pyramids there too? Yes, there are such amazing sights in the region that they are mesmerizing and also add to the diversity of this mountainous province. By the way, if you thought that the similarity of the Guizhou pyramids to the Egyptian pyramids lies not only in their shape, but also in the fact that they were built by people, we have to disappoint you. They are limestone formations over 200 million years old that formed in a marine environment. In short, Guizhou is mountains, mountains, and more mountains. And if it were just an ordinary region with rugged terrain, well, here the mountainous landscape is anything but ordinary. Guizhou is a province whose ruggedness can only be described as extreme. Here, almost every mountain boasts steep slopes and precipices, and there are countless waterfalls cascading from sheer drops of thousands of meters. It's nothing short of a paradise for extreme sports enthusiasts. And yes, the project under construction will add even more places for extreme sports. And the builders are already thrilled to be constructing it under such dangerous conditions. But we'll talk about that a little later. For now, it's worth mentioning that Guizhou has a great many rivers, no fewer than 984, with a total flow volume of 114.52 billion cubic meters. And you know what it means for so many rivers to flow between high mountains? Electricity. Guizhou's rivers have the potential to generate 18.745 billion kilowatts of energy, ranking 6th in China. Yes, not all of it is usable, only 16.8 million kilowatts, but even that already represents 4.4% of China's hydroelectric resources. The province has already established a large number of hydroelectric power plants, including the Guizhou plant and its lifting system, which carries boats over a mountain, raising their combined height to 199 meters. Yes, because of the province's endless mountains, the Chinese have to go to the trouble of even building such structures. It would seem that abundant energy means it's a good place for economic development, and therefore a high standard of living for the population. However, the mountains are, let's say, in the way of almost everything, except for obtaining hydroelectric power. To put it in perspective, in 2023, the per capita disposable income in Guizhou was 27,098 yuan, which is equivalent to about $3,800. It's the second highest in China if we count from the bottom up. Meanwhile, Guizhou's GDP in 2023 was $296 billion, ranking 22nd out of the country's 31 provinces. This is a shame because Guizhou is situated in an ideal climate for agriculture. The average annual temperature is around 10 to 20 degrees Celsius. The frost-free period lasts 250 to 300 days. There is no extreme cold in winter or extreme heat in summer. There are also no problems with rainfall. Things aren't quite as good as in the most fertile areas of southeast China, but the situation is very similar. Of course, agriculture can't be organized in mountainous areas, but other areas that require less flat land could be developed. But it's not all smooth sailing. The problem is that it's difficult to displace the people who are the engine of the economy, because they are the workforce. Unfortunately, for the time being, we won't be replaced by robots capable of performing their functions live, right in the factories or on the farmlands. And labor is plentiful. In 2022, Guizhou will have 38.5 million inhabitants, almost as many as Canada, Poland, Malaysia, or Morocco, for example. An illustrative example of the transportation problem throughout the region, which hinders economic development, is the story of one of the residents of Huajiang Township. He grows vegetables that he needs to sell to another village, and the only way to get there is by crossing the river. How did this man reach his destination? On a zip line, a cable or rope with a suspended strap, a block, and a handle. The solution is extremely dangerous, especially at high altitudes. Furthermore, traveling this way meant carrying food on his back, which is a sure way to lose something important. Incidentally, this settlement has just over 20,000 households and about 100,000 residents. They are all literally cut off, as the only way out is to cross the river on a zip line or rent a boat and spend a lot of time on the journey. The other options are useless because there are mountains everywhere. But everything changed in an instant with the arrival of the bridge. Residents immediately bought regular means of transportation like motorbikes and cars, and some even became wealthy. They started earning around 60,000 yuan, or $8,700. Ultimately, bridges are a solution that Guizhou simply needs to develop. In some places, they can provide access to areas where at least some manufacturing or farmland can be established. But most importantly, they simply allow people to move between all these mountains, cliffs, and fast-flowing streams. This project is one of those ways to improve the infrastructure situation in Guizhou. This engineering marvel began construction in 2021 over the Huajiang Gorge, through which the Beipan River flows. Take a look at these photos. How high do you think the structure is being built? If the number 625 has somehow popped into your head, then yes, that's the distance in meters between the bridge deck and the bottom of the gorge. So, if we put two towers, one on top of the other, they would only be 35 meters higher, a world record. During the construction process, the Chinese realized they needed more grandeur and scope, so they decided to use a rigid steel truss for the bridge, with a main span of 1,420 meters. Bridge trusses are rod-like structures within which the load is distributed. In this way, Guizhou broke the record of the Humber Bridge in the UK, which was the longest suspension bridge in the world. When it is finished, which is expected to happen in 2025, the total length of the bridge will be 2,890 meters, with more than 24 40-meter spans. The Chinese engineers haven't forgotten about aesthetics either. They wanted to give the bridge a classic look that, they claim, should remain timeless forever. Whether it worked or not is something everyone must decide for themselves, because tastes differ. However, doesn't the bridge look different to you? Indeed. Yes, there are similarities to the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, that's for sure. The whole construction process seems very easy, as is always the case with the Chinese, who finish almost all their mega projects with incredible speed. However, the actual construction of the Huajiang Gorge Bridge is a gigantic undertaking. First of all, such a tall structure is, of course, brilliant and impressive, a world record after all. But at the same time, it's very dangerous for those working on it. Of course, the Chinese managed to cope with this. All the workers felt safe because they were protected against accidents by a series of safety devices and other equipment. But after the initial assessments, they certainly felt there would be more work than usual. The slopes were uneven. This was another challenge that required not only more equipment, but also significantly more resources. On the north slope, a 262-meter-high concrete tower had to be erected, 58 meters taller than the one on the opposite side. Its height is 205 meters. In general, although the workers felt safe during construction, thanks to the various safety devices, they still weren't 100% confident that everything would always be in perfect order. They had to be aware that the province's geological processes didn't stop when the entire mountain range was formed. Earthquakes sometimes occur. Of course, this isn't Japan with its frequent and powerful earthquakes. Things are much better in Guizhou. However, for example, according to the earthquake monitoring website, the province has experienced 8 tremors with magnitudes between 4 and 5.2 in the last 365 days. Looking back, the province was hit by a magnitude 5.7 earthquake in 2012, which caused 80 deaths and more than 700 injuries, while more than 100,000 people were evacuated from the neighboring province of Yunnan, which was also affected. In 2014, Yunnan and Guizhou were struck by another earthquake, with the former suffering over 360 deaths, although strong tremors were also felt in Guizhou. Generally speaking, there are instances of quite powerful earthquakes, which is already dangerous for structures under construction, especially for a gigantic suspension bridge. Another problem is the weather. This refers specifically to what happens at the construction site. According to Alimak, the Stockholm-based company that supplied the construction equipment, the project is located on a plateau, which amplifies the difference in air temperature between day and night. This increases the likelihood of strong convection and constant winds throughout the year. Problem after problem, yet the Chinese are facing it as always. There have been no accidents, at least none that we have found publicly available. And the most recent reports, dated January 20th, 2025, state that the final section of the 215-ton steel beam has been put in place. This event marked the completion of 80% of the project. Only the placement of the panel segments between the trusses remains. This is the final step before the planned completion of construction in the second half of 2025. This is certain to happen despite the challenges because $280 million has already been spent on the bridge. The Huajiang Gorge Bridge will undoubtedly bring many benefits to the province. The first and most obvious is, of course, the improvement of infrastructure between the Guizhou regions, which, as we have mentioned, are suffering greatly, leading to a slowdown in economic development. As stated, the bridge will strengthen economic ties between Guizhou, Anshun, and Qianqinan, simply because goods, people, and indeed anything will be able to travel across the gigantic canyon. Crossing is already possible. There are bridges such as the equally magnificent Duke Bridge, but they are at least 200 kilometers away. Yes, you don't necessarily have to drive to one of these crossings to get to the other side. There are other ways. However, it currently takes at least 70 minutes. In comparison, once the bridge is built, it will take about 2 minutes to cross the canyon. Overall, the reduction in travel time is clear. As we have already seen, the improved infrastructure will also help reduce poverty. And not only by making crossings faster and more comfortable for everyone, but also by boosting tourism. Many residents of Guizhou have long recognized that tourists are a source of income, so they started working as guides, providing accommodation, selling souvenirs, and other goods. For example, 1.3 million people visited Guizhou in 2023, and there was a year-on-year increase in tourists of almost 11% from January to August 2024. And it's not just foreigners. In 2024, 8% of all tourists were Chinese from other provinces. While the bridge will facilitate tourist travel, the new crossing will also be an attraction for visitors from the province. See for yourself, the world's highest bridge, built by the Chinese under such challenging conditions. It's a sight to behold. But that's not all. The bridge is planned to be fully integrated into the tourism infrastructure. The centerpiece of the project will be the Yundu service area, located next to the bridge, which will combine natural beauty with modern recreational facilities. Covering a total area of almost 11 square kilometers, there will be ample space for everything from modern hotels and resorts to unique sports and tourist attractions. For example, a glass elevator will take people to the top of the South Tower. More than 180 meters above the roadway, the stargazing bar and cafe will be located, where people can enjoy a cup of coffee and breathtaking views under the stars. The next adventure awaits visitors on the lower level. An elevator will take them inside the bridge's truss, where an 800-meter-long glass walkway begins. The floor, through which the canyon can be seen, will make them feel as if they are floating in the air. But the main attraction will be extreme fitness. Rocky trails, breathtaking mountain descents, and high-speed zip lines through canyons will make Huajiang Gorge a magnet for thrill seekers. And the bravest will experience bungee jumping. A platform 616 meters above the Beipon River will offer the highest jump into the abyss in the world. This extreme fitness activity will become a trademark of the bridge. But that's not all. Within the bridge's grounds, there will be a huge tourist center, designed in a futuristic style inspired by Zaha Hadid's architecture. Here, visitors can learn about the development of suspension bridges, the ancient history of the canyon, and local traditions. For those wishing to spend more time in the area, there are private bungalows overlooking the bridge, the perfect place to pause and travel right to the foot of the canyon. Interestingly, some tourist facilities are being built concurrently with the bridge itself, so guests can enjoy the full range of experiences from the very first days of opening. In short, Guizhou not only knows how to build bridges, but also how to attract the world's attention. After all, the province is known as the Museum of Bridges for good reason. And it must be said that the entire country is famous for its bridges in general. More bridges are built here every year than anywhere else in the world, but Guizhou stands out. This region is a true mecca for bridge engineering experts. Nearly half of the world's 100 tallest bridges are located here. In total, more than 30,000 bridges have been built in the province, ranging from ancient stone structures to ultra-modern engineering masterpieces, from small crossings to giants soaring over chasms several meters deep. If you take a look at the 15 bridges with the greatest distance from the deck to the ground, you'll see that 8 of them are located in Guizhou. Generally, the top spot will soon be taken by the new bridge we're discussing today, but for now, the Dug Bridge holds the record. It's located about 200 kilometers from the Huajiang Canyon Bridge. The Dug Bridge is a 4-lane anti-tank bridge with brightly colored H-shaped supports, and the height from the deck to the Nishu River flowing beneath it reaches 585 meters. The Duke Bridge measures 1,340 meters, which isn't particularly impressive, but the experience of traveling over the canyon is absolutely worthwhile. The bridge was built between 2011 and 2016, again, quite quickly and in the same region, meaning the Chinese faced the same challenges we've already discussed today. And then there's the Pingtang Bridge, which came in third on another list, the tallest bridges. It connects the Pingtang Expressway to Luodian across the deep Caodo River Valley, standing 332 meters tall and spanning 2,100 meters. It's worth noting that the tallest tower of this structure is only 15 meters shorter than the famous French Milan Viaduct, which has a similar design and holds the top spot on the same list. The construction of this magnificent structure cost 1.5 billion yuan, equivalent to about $215 million. And here we have another record, the world's largest arch bridge with a concrete-filled steel frame. The total length of this crossing is 1,834 meters, and the main span reaches 504 meters. There's an old saying that in Guizhou there are never 3 days without rain, 3 hectares without mountains, or 3 coins in your pocket. Judging by the region's bridge landscape, it's time to add to the saying that there aren't 3 gorges in the province without a spectacular, record-breaking bridge.